This week in careers, working with Generation Y, or as I like to call them, Generation Y, do they do that? And find out how to get one of our fabulous career makeovers. Welcome to This Week in Careers, where we're trying to save America one job at a time. I'm your host, Lisa Johnson Mandel, author of Career Comeback, Repackage Yourself to Get the Job You Want, and lead career blogger at AOL. We have so much useful and interesting information for you this week. We're going to start it off right now with the Job of the Week. Oh my gosh, this week it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I love telling you about these kinds of things. The Chicago Cubs are looking for a new voice. Yes, they need an announcer. That's going to be wildly popular with a lot of people, and I know this because at AOL I do features on all the undercover bosses. And when we did the feature on the owner of the Chicago Cubs, traffic was off the charts. Everybody wanted to read that. So I know there are a lot of Chicago Cubs fans out there. To get the job, it's going to be not that difficult if you have the right tools. The tools that you need are an encyclopedic knowledge of baseball, great vocal talent, and you must not mind being at every Cubs home game during the season. You also have to have the ability to make various media appearances and be at special events throughout the year, but not in the wintertime. So you can get away from Chicago in the wintertime, go to the Bahamas, and then enjoy it all year long, or enjoy all baseball season. Now, to find out more information on this, go to careerbuilder.com, because CareerBuilder and the Chicago Cubs are working together to find their new voice. And you have to be quick, because they're only taking applications till March 7th. Now, that's going to require you making a video and doing a little demo there, so you got to get right on it. You can find details at careerbuilder.com. Okay, speaking of wonderful opportunities, we're moving right into the tip of the week. Okay, the tip of the week today is do a mitzvah for a friend, create some good career karma for yourself by recommending them for one of our fabulous military makeovers. Okay, I've got some experience doing military makeovers. They're pretty dramatic. AOL is collaborating with the White House on a military support appreciation week. And as part of that, we are looking for 4 people, 2 men, 2 women, who we are going to give military career makeovers to. Now, if you or you know someone who is maybe doing a transition from the military into civilian life, or who has a spouse who is deployed and wants to look great for when they come back, or who needs to get a job because their spouse has been deployed and needs a new look, send them our way. Just about the only requirement we have is that they have to live in Southern California, because I'm going to work my personal magic on them, and hey, I live here. So anyway, anybody who's in the Southern California area who wouldn't mind coming into Los Angeles for a day and getting clothing, hair, makeup, all sorts of things, go to jobs.aol.com. and they will give you the details on it. Now, we have some pictures of my last career makeover, or my last military makeover. Pretty dramatic stuff. This could be you, my friends. There's Susan before, and there she is afterwards. Does she not rock? Okay, we can do that for you or somebody you love. So get in touch with us at jobs.aol.com. You'll find all the details right there. Moving right along to our next segment, Week Career Move of the Week. Okay, this is rapidly becoming everybody's favorite feature on AOL Jobs. Every day we come up with somebody that's done something really lame, and this week, you probably already guessed who it's going to be. The award goes to John Galliano, who went to the Mel Gibson School of PR and spouted off a bunch of anti-Semitic remarks in public. Okay. He was the creative director for Dior, and one of the world's top designers, and he blew it all on these drunken ramblings. What a fool. Now, not only did he get fired from Dior, but he could also get jail time, because in France, it's illegal to say those kinds of things in public. And, of course, It's all been documented on YouTube. So he's made a little apology for this. But I'm thinking it's not going to go very far. Let me read you the highlights, or the lowlights, if you will. He says, I completely deny the claims made against me and have fully cooperated with the police investigation. John, proof was on YouTube. Millions of people saw it. It's been taken down because the content's so vile in nature, but millions of people, including myself, saw your drunken ramblings. Okay. Then he goes on to say, however, I must take responsibility for the circumstances in which I found myself and for allowing myself to be seen to be behaving in the worst possible light. Thank you. I only have myself to blame, and I know that I must face up to my own failures and that I must work hard to gain people's understanding and compassion. To start this process, I am seeking help, yada, yada, yada. And here's where it starts to get better. He sounds a little whiny up to that part. Anyway, he says, I have fought my entire life against prejudice, intolerance, and discrimination, having been subjected to it myself. Okay, John Galliano is gay, so he's experienced a little bit of that. Anti-Semitism and racism have no part in our society. I unreservedly apologize for my behavior in causing any offense. Thank you very much, John. The apology is a little too little, a little too late, and I believe that the door to Dior will forever be closed to you.
Christian Dior says it's firing famed fashion designer John Galliano after an online video emerged that showed him praising Adolf Hitler. The fashion house said Tuesday that Galliano has been immediately laid off and the process of firing him has begun.
But it's the first time I've really referenced it as an inspiration for the collection.
Last week, Dior suspended Galliano as its creative director, pending an investigation into an alleged anti-Semitic incident at a Paris cafe. Dior had come under pressure after Oscar-winning actress Natalie Portman, one of the company's spokesmodels, said in a statement she will not be associated with Mr. Galliano in any way. The house is scheduled to present its fall-winter ready-to-wear collection Friday as part of Paris Fashion Week. Nicole Levitt, The Associated Press.
Now, before I introduce our esteemed guest today, I have good news, for us anyway. This Week in Careers has a sponsor. It's Bowflex, which Kevin Pollak, who is the founder, one of the founders of thisweekend.com, and he has his own chat show, which is very popular on This Weekend. He is working with Bowflex and has, in particular, is talking about the Bowflex Tread Climber. We have a little bit of video on that.
Hello, how are you? I'm here to tell you about Bowflex Tread Climber. Oh, this is exciting stuff. The machine is called the Bowflex Tread Climber. The tread climber combines the motions of a treadmill, a stepper, and an elliptical into one beautiful machine. It's 3 workouts in one fluid motion. You can't touch it, folks. All you have to do to lose weight is walk. That's it. Wow, walk. Bowflex recommends just 30 minutes 3 times a week. That's it. Ooh, how great is this? Bowflex did a study at Adelphi University that showed the TRC can burn up to 40% more calories than a stepper, can burn up to 2 times the calories of a treadmill. Wow! These are 2 ways to request the treadmill info kit. There are 2 different ways. What's in the info kit, you ask? I hear you. The full-color glossy brochure that describes the tread climber's unique motion 3-in-1 design, available models, financing offers, etc. Also, a free DVD so you can see it in motion and learn more about the machine. And finally, bonus. Ooh, bonus. We love bonuses. The Bowflex Insider's Guide, which includes a free fitness assessment, 6 weight loss secrets anyone can use to start losing weight today. Forget yesterday, we're talking about today. Info on nutrition, superfoods, and more. Hey, did I mention it was free? Enjoy your Bowflex Tread Climber today.
Okay, I have to admit, that thing looks pretty cool, but I'm a big fan of workout equipment. But my question is, if I use it, will I sound like Christopher Walken too? Answer me that, Kevin. Okay. Moving right along, I want to introduce our guest, Barbara Ray, who is the author of Not Quite Adults, Why 20-Somethings Are Choosing a Slower Path to Adulthood and Why It's Good for Everyone. Okay. You're going to have to do some convincing of me on why that's good for everyone. I admit to being a little confused by this generation because it's so different from my own. Maybe you can help me out by starting out with telling us what are some of the biggest misnomers about Generation Y?
Well, I think probably the biggest is that they're a bunch of slackers.
They're not slackers.
No. Instead, a lot has changed in a generation or two, and they are responding to these big changes in jobs, in marriage and family, in the longer path to adulthood. So what we, as older generation, sees as maybe well, get going, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Is not a personal failing, but rather just a response to the changed environment that they're operating in. So just take jobs.
Okay.
I mean, it's very hard to, well, even before the recession, it was jobs are no longer secure. You don't go into a job and stay in a job for your entire life. And so this change is constant, and you always have to be on the move, upping your credentials, getting more education, more training, and you have to be comfortable with a very influx job market. And this generation is, but that translates to us older workers as less loyalty, job hopping, those kinds of things. But again, it's not a generation that's just flaky and self-involved. It's more, this is the world before me.
Interesting. Okay, because I don't have any children myself, but my sister has 6, and many of them are in that age where they're going to college. It's taking them longer to get their degrees because it's harder for them to decide what they want to do, and then once they get out, they're still not sure what they want to do. So they're taking a little more time, doing some traveling and things like that, and it's so contrary to the way I grew up, and maybe the way you grew up, and the way my sister grew up, certainly, and her husband. We're kind of scratching our heads because when we went to school, it was like we knew exactly what we wanted to major in, we knew what classes we needed to take, we got internships during the summer in our field, and then when we got out, we had our pick of jobs to choose from. But not quite like that these days, right?
Well, certainly not now, today. I mean, I would say a few years ago, that was a common path for the elite group, the kids who went to, four-year colleges and graduated with those internships in hand, and, they went to the good schools. But there's a huge group, a majority, who are floundering in this path through education, and they're floundering badly. And so, they might go in because they don't know really what they want to do. And so they start in college and they're like, oh, this is not for me. They drop out. They, go try to get a job, and it's a dead-end job because, no longer do we have this economy that supports people with less education, a high school education. You used to be able to go into a factory and have benefits, a pension, a lifetime job. That's gone. So instead, there's the service economy, which is low paid. You end up, spinning your wheels in those jobs. And so then, it's back to school. Try again, figure out what it is you want to do, and that all takes time. And so it's I have a lot of sympathy for this generation because they're on their own to figure this out.
Well, you're helping me develop some sympathy too. So if you say they're on their own, but there are those of us who are established and who have our careers, what can we do to offer support to them? What do they need? What can we do for them?
Well, I think, I think a big thing we can do is mentor and really make those paths through a career clear. Make those paths from college or just even a 2-year school or other training. Make the path from that to a job clear. Sometimes I was talking to a young adult the other day, and she was saying, well, when I got out of school, I had a marketing degree, but I didn't, and I liked writing, but I didn't know what to do with it. And a friend told her about this, and then another friend told her about this, and she just kind of stumbled through, going from, getting closer and closer to something that interested her. But wouldn't it be great if we could just make that path clearer and show young adults the number of options. For example, if you're a writer, what you can do with that. That's not just, be a journalist, but all those other facets of writing that you can tap into. We just don't make that clear in this country for kids in high school or kids in college, and I think that would be great. So mentoring, advice, especially for women, I think it's really important that they have a strong mentor who can help them, navigate that path.
So what can a Gen Y person do to find a mentor? How do they go about finding a mentor? They know they need one, they're at odds, they see somebody who maybe they admire, or think of a profession that they'd like to find out more about. How do they find a mentor?
I think we should do a little better job of making, people should be mentoring more. There aren't, as far as I know, any official, I could be wrong about this, but it doesn't seem like there's many official mentoring hookups. So I think young adults have to take the initiative and kind of call around and find somebody, maybe through their parents' networks and other networks, their friends' networks. And I would be willing to mentor someone. So I think everybody's pretty generous with their time when it's somebody who shows ambition and really wants to learn.
Great, great. Yeah, that's true. Now, Generation Y people too have they've kind of gotten a bad rap, and that's gotten a lot of publicity lately. For example, Generation Y being the quote-unquote entitlement generation. Can you explain what that is, and maybe help give Generation Y some pointers on how to make sure everyone knows that that's not how you feel?
Well, I think the entitlement generation really shows up at the workplace. My sister was telling me that there was this young new hire, and he was in his 20s, and he came to the conference table and he would just be talking all the time. He was always had the ideas. He was, and she was put off because she was like, wait, you're supposed to pay your dues. You're supposed to just put your nose down and, learn from the rest of us who've been here for a while. And then I was telling her about the book, so she read the book, and she's like, you know what, now I have a different understanding of this generation. It's not that they think that they know everything, but they've been brought up to be very comfortable with adults and very comfortable in adult situations. Parents have been a part of their life for much more intensely than our parents were. So they're very comfortable in adult situations, and they have been groomed to believe in themselves, which is a good thing. So I think that's just a cross-generational misunderstanding that if we opened our eyes a little bit to where they're coming from, understood them, then maybe we can learn from them as well.
Well, another thing that I know a lot of my friends who employ Generation Y people, one of the complaints they have is that they feel like the Generation Y people are always asking for praise, like they always want affirmation. It's like, oh boy, I came into work on time for 4 days in a row, so I deserve a day off on the 5th day, right? Because I did so well, right? And they want praise for things that the rest of us just do automatically and feel that are expected of us.
Again, I think it's how they were raised. They've been raised in a very competitive environment, whether it's playing soccer when they're 5 or violin lessons, it's been structured play, and it's been structured education. So in those structures, there's always rewards and there's always praise, and so you get used to that. And I think coming into a workforce then where there's no structure and the lines aren't clear of who you're reporting to or who you're supposed to respond to, that's just grounds for confusion.
So speaking to the Generation Y people, how can they come across as being less in need of praise and less entitled?
Well, I think it always pays to watch and listen to those who have been there longer and who can offer some advice and tips and just learn from other people's examples, and understand that I think this generation can try to understand our generation as well. I think that, understand where we're coming from, how we did it, and that's shaping our lives. And so if Generation Y can understand that, I think they'll see that, there's some grounds here that we can meet halfway.
Excellent. And it's important, I think, for Generation Y to understand that it's probably somebody from Generation X or a baby boomer who is going to be interviewing them for the job.
Yes.
So it's important that they do, as you just mentioned, understand, make an effort to understand that generation as well. But it's also important for us to understand that generation so we can all just get along.
Yeah, you know, every generation has this kids these days, and so I think we have to step back and say, uh-oh, am I falling into the same pattern my parents thought about me? You know, I mean, we rebelled as boomers. We rebelled against our parents because they were so, you know, they said kids these days too. So I think we have to be careful not to do that. And at the same time, the younger generation has to acknowledge, or should acknowledge, that there's a lot to learn yet, and you know, you can learn from the older generation.
That's so true. And you know, when I catch myself doing that, and I use this as a reminder to myself not to write off another generation, is when I'm listening to the radio and something comes on and I think, how do those kids listen to that music? And then I think, that's what my parents were saying about the Beatles and the Stones and U2 and, you know.
I know. Turn that crazy music off.
Yeah, when I catch myself feeling that way, I think, okay, Lisa, time to stop and open up your mind a little bit.
Yes, that's right.
Now, a lot of people say that a lot of the Generation Y behavior can be attributed to the fact that they had helicopter parents. And you say in your book that helicopter parents are not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. Well, we say, first of all, that we did 500 interviews across the country, and as well as we draw on 10 years of research from the Network on Transitions to Adulthood. So, you know, this isn't just our opinion, but in those interviews, we didn't see that many helicopter parents. In fact, we're more concerned about uninvolved parents. There's just a lot of kids who aren't getting the guidance in this highly competitive world, and parental guidance and help really gives you a good leg up. So in that sense, we look at parents who are involved in their children's life as a resource. Of course, there's extremes, and you know, there are those examples of crazy helicopter parents, and we're not saying that's good.
Now, helicopter parents, they call them helicopter parents because they're always hovering,
They're
right,
hovering,
over their kids.
yeah, and you know, calling up the professor when the kid gets a bad grade, and yeah, but you know, that's really not the norm. And I think parents and their children are much closer today too. Parents have parented differently from the get-go, so they've been much more involved in their children's lives, and they have been much more, you know, interested in their futures, and they're continuing this into their 20s. Just because they turn 18 doesn't mean you stop being a parent. So.
Now, you guys have come up with a lot of stats on why it's taking, or stats on that prove that it is taking Generation Y longer to sort of get out and get up and on their own. Tell me some of the things that that led you to this belief, this fact.
Well, you know, when this network I mentioned started 10 years ago, it started with the question, is this definitely a trend? Has it slowed down? Has this path to adulthood slowed down? And we started with these 5 markers we would kind of consider adult, and that means getting your education, moving out of home, marrying, starting in your career, buying a home. Those kind of
having kids,
those kind of big things that we do as adults. And so we went through all these databases and found that indeed all those milestones are occurring much later. Whereas you and I might have accomplished all of those things by age 25, it's now more like 35.
Really?
Yes, and that happened in a very condensed period of time. So it feels like this massive change, and it is a big change. But because it happened in such a condensed time, it feels even bigger. So, so yes, you know, we have definitely documented this slower path. And the thing that we came in through all these interviews is that this slower path is a good thing. It leads to a more secure future. And in fact, those kids who try to follow the old path of doing this all very fast by age 25, they have a much higher risk of poverty, of getting stuck in dead-end jobs, of, you know, really, really scary outcomes. So I think the main message in this book is that slowing down is a good thing because it leads to a more secure future.
How interesting. It's really a detriment to be the go-getter in this job market and society today.
Yeah, I would say, you know, not, it's always a good thing to be a go-getter, but if you're rushing just to get out of the house and just to get that first job, the advice we would say would be pause, be strategic, think about what it is you want to gain from college, because it's expensive to go to college. So you have to have a plan. And then, you know, that plan will take some time. You're going to have to get a foundation of education. That's just a given today. And if you skip that step or you know, fail at that step, it's going to throw you on a path that we call the treaders. They're just treading water, barely able to keep their head above water. So being strategic, going slower, nothing wrong with that.
So what are some of the people doing to take up that lag time? For example, if they don't know if they want to go to school, they don't know what they want to study, so they're taking maybe a year out to sort of find themselves, decide what they want to do. Are they getting jobs? Are they traveling? And in this economy, what are some of the things that people are doing that really helps them?
Well, before the recession, there was experimenting, you know, testing different careers, going back to grad school, getting more education. There was some travel, but really, this is a generation that really loves to volunteer and give back to the community. So there was a lot of Teach for America, there was a lot of AmeriCorps work, volunteer work for a gap year. Those numbers have been rising since 2000. So this generation is definitely committed to their communities. But with the recession, now it is sudden change. And where that expectation was, I'll go to 4 years of school and I'll have a dream job, you know, waiting for me or shortly thereafter, that is not happening. Unemployment among 18 to 24-year-olds is hovering somewhere around 14%.
Wow, way higher than almost any other age group.
Yeah, and the jobs aren't there. And older generation is staying in their jobs longer, so that makes it even more competitive. So we're hearing in new interviews, we're hearing a real dialing down of expectations about what they want. They feel lucky to have a job. So, you know, maybe we'll see a little shift in the perceptions that we have of them. I mean, I think they're really happy to have a job when they get one, because it's most kids don't, and I think they're very concerned with moving up, and they're less risk takers now, we're finding, and they want job security, and they want all these things that, you know, kind of back to the 50s almost.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So the barista job is nothing to sneeze at.
No, you get health insurance at Starbucks.
Yeah, great. You don't even have to be full time. You get health insurance for like working there 30 hours a week. It's great. So, so we should have lower, I mean, I don't want to say lower expectations. We should have different expectations of them, and they should have different expectations of themselves. And it only makes sense. Once again, this is my coming to the realization that I need to have more patience with this generation and not just think, why can't you do it the way I did?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I kind of understand that, because I'm having to do things different too.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, in my professional path, and as you said, so many people are putting off retirement so much longer. We're staying there longer. So they can almost be forgiven when they look at us like, you know, you're taking my job, why don't you just move on and, you know, make some room for me to step up there. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but put yourself in their position, listen to their music, you kind of understand that. Now, something you said a minute ago, you talked about treaders, and you divide them into two categories, treaders and swimmers.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, the swimmers are the four-year college grads who are often women who are driven, and they've been driven all their lives. They've been groomed all their lives to succeed. They've gone to the right schools. They've taken AP classes in high school. They've done everything right, and they're out. They've done the internships, you know, and they're out in the world, and they're ambitious and they're going places. They have ideas and they know how to get them, but that's a minority. We hear a lot about them, and you know, often this is the image we have of this generation, but in fact, I'd say more than 60% of this generation would fall into our treaders category.
60%?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. And the reason is because this, like I said before, this path through school and after school is so blurry for everybody. It's so fuzzy. And so many kids, you know, just stumble badly during college, or, you know, 50% drop out of college. So you're dropping out with debt today, too, so that sets you back. And it's just harder to dig a hole faster today because of, it's a do-it-yourself economy. You have to be in charge of your own career path, your own insurance, your own everything. And so if you don't have the experience and you trip up early, it's like you're digging in a sand pit. And before you know it, you're at a dead-end job, you're chasing a 50-cent an hour raise from one job to another, and you're just getting nowhere. And, largely because the lack of education, the lack of guided training. And so it's a very worrisome thing. We don't talk enough about this group, and it's a very large group.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's what you came here for today. You flew in from Chicago to spread this message, didn't you?
Yeah, and Cub season is starting soon.
Are you going to be auditioning for that job?
No, I'm afraid not. My husband would probably love it, but
wouldn't that be great?
Oh gosh,
I mean, that's the ideal job, but wouldn't work for me because my knowledge of baseball is not encyclopedic.
I fake it.
So you can enjoy it for your husband. You know what? Faking it sort of is a good attitude to take these days, whether you're with Gen Y and feeling frustrated about working with some of them and managing them, or whether you're a member of Gen Y and really trying your hardest and not understanding what to do. The old thing of fake it till you make it is really something I think we could all benefit from.
Yeah, I think we've all faked it.
Yes.
And that's the big myth sometimes. I think sometimes this generation feels like they need to do everything right, and they have to have all their ducks in a row, and they have to be perfect. And the big thing that we don't tell them is that, no, we're all faking it. We're all just trying to make it work.
Thank you, Barbara. Your insight has been really good, and it's changed the way I thought, and I know that I've needed that, and I hope I haven't offended any Gen Y people out there. I love you, I do, especially my nieces, girls. You're the lights of my life, and I know you're going to figure it out any day now, and I'll do what I can to help you. Thanks to our guest, Barbara Ray, author of Not Quite Adults. You've been watching This Week in Careers. We hope you tune in next week. I'm Lisa Johnson Mandel, trying to save America one job at a time. Thanks so much for watching.